So let's just get right into geeky stuff and learn about this guitar. So what do we have? We have a guitar, it's called the Hils guitar, H-I-L-S, a mahogany body guitar with a roasted maple neck and a Indian rosewood fretboard with 24 medium jumbo stainless steel frets, bone nut, 2 humbucker pickups with a volume tone push-pull coil split 3-way switch, and a spoke wheel style truss rod. That makes it easy to adjust. What makes this guitar great is manufactured in Indonesia and it streets for $499 and comes with a fitted deluxe gig bag. Look at that. That's pretty good, like I said, firm. Nice little front pocket right here. Okay, comes with an inspection form because they inspect them here in the US if you're buying one in the US. This is easily a $100 gig bag. So a $100 gig bag included and a $499 made in Indonesia guitar. To make it easier for you, I'll put the link to their website down below in the description, and there's a QR code right here that you can scan. That'll take you right to their website. This guitar is so light. Ready, set, here we go. 4.45 pounds. It's like playing styrofoam. One of my favorite features, I wish Strandberg and Kiesel would adopt. So if you look here, it does have a little bit of a headstock, so you can hang it. Pretty cool. Also, you have something to clip the headstock tuner to. There's also 2 rubber feet on the bottom, so you can set it up and lean it against your amp maybe. Another interesting thing that you guys really seem to be focused on is the back plates are recessed into the body. This is satin metallic orange, but it comes in a ton of other colors. I'll put snapshots of all the other colors they offer. Let's go ahead and talk about how it came set up out of the box. So out of the box, it had a little bit of relief. Yep, okay, just a little teeny bit of relief. And action-wise was 2 millimeters at the 12th fret. 1.75 on the high E, and it looks like 1.75, 2, 2, and 2. So 2 millimeters. So very standard setup as we always see. The nut, which is bone, is cut really well. And you can see here the pushing down with our ring finger on the 3rd fret, and just pushing down to see how much distance is between the string and the fret. There's none. And that's pretty cool. Let's see if we have any dead frets. Here we go. No dead frets. This is a good time to check the handshake. The handshake is whenever we have a modern guitar that has more of a modern carve, I always want to just hold it for a second, see what kind of poked your hand. It's rounded here, but it's kind of weirdly rounded. Like if you can see, it doesn't round over smooth. So it's comfortable, but it's not perfectly contoured to your hand. But access-wise, I mean, lots of access. Very cool. So obviously with the stainless steel frets and the spoke wheel truss rod, this is one of those you don't have to worry about a lot kind of guitars. If you guys know, you lock the string here. So you put the ball end down there, and then you lock it here. One feature that is really cool is this feature right here on the headstock. What they did is they cut out grooves into this metal piece, and the string goes in there so it doesn't come out the other end, so it can't poke you, which we'll show you in a second. There's also no 0 fret, so it's bone nut. Let's go ahead and check to see what's the scale length on this. And sitting here, we are at 25.5-inch scale length. Let's go ahead and check these fret ends, and we'll check the bridge and to see if there's anything on the nut we need to worry about. So we do this test every video. We just want to see how well they polished these frets and then how well the neck stayed its original shape, because as you know, they shrink, especially in Arizona where I am. Okay, so feeling this, that's definitely, see that line right there? That's definitely a 3, I'd say a 3 out of 5. Let's go ahead and do the bass side. And the bass side, a little better. Look at that. I'd say that's about a 3.5. I mean, almost a 4. Look at that, almost perfect. Let's do another one on the bridge. And this is sometimes why we want to do this, is to see, since the action's set nice, are the grub screws sticking out? Oh, look at that. That's perfect. Now, what I will tell you is all the grub screws are sitting right flush or just inset into the saddles. And that means if you lowered this action a little bit, they'd start to poke out. And so a lot of you will be aware that you may want to change those out or cut them down. Let's go ahead and try this part here. And look at that. So I've seen some of you guys ask about guitars like this. Do the strings pop out and poke you? This doesn't happen in this guitar, so very cool. So the pickups are not active. They look active, so let's talk about that. So first, let's see what they are. So starting with the bridge, wow, 15.03K. Obviously, that's a heavy wound pickup. The neck coming in at 11.39. Again, kind of what we expected. Inductance on the bridge is 5.95, which exactly what I expected. It's a powerful magnet with a lot of winds on it. Let's go to that neck, and 3.77. So again, kind of what we expected.
And I was able to confirm with those tests and some research on the internet that these are ceramic magnet pickups.
I went ahead and I took out the pickups. I wanted to take the pickups out and look at them. So I'm going to be showing you footage right now of what they look like underneath. They're epoxied. That's not the concern. The concern is to get the neck pickup out, I had to take the neck off, and I barely was able to do that without damaging anything. They're hard to adjust. Something I would say to the Hils guitars, guys, I would definitely increase the size of the route so that this pickup sits in there better.
Now, although I'm not being paid by Hils Guitars and they didn't know I was doing a Geek Dive review, and as a lot of you know, I spend weeks, if not months, on reviewing a guitar like this, I did reach out to them with my issues, and this is what I got back. Love the video. Thanks so much, Phil. I haven't had one yet that I couldn't adjust the pickup height, but they are definitely tight in the pocket. I will see if they can open up the tolerances. The factory just watched the video and confirmed that they will open up the routing another 0.5 millimeter to avoid this issue you saw. Appreciate the feedback.
Let's look inside of it. A couple things I see. You have a three-way switch, done really nice. You have a 500K potentiometer right here. No treble bleed. Here is your tone pot. This is also 500K.
And the capacitor they're using is a 0.022 microfarad capacitor, which is very common when you see a humbucker style guitar. Only thing you need to know is that the higher the number, like a 0.047 that you would see in a single coil guitar, is going to make the tone control darker. So obviously on a humbucker, you're going to have a lower number capacitor, and on a single coil guitar, you'll be a higher number capacitor.
And this is also a push-pull for coil split. You have the output jack, which is a barrel style jack right here. You have shielding paint painted inside the cavity, and including the shielding paint coming over the side here, which would mean that this is, yep, it's got foil on it.
And that way the shielding on the cover creates a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage, or a Faraday shield, is an enclosure used to block some of the electromagnetic fields. So what we're seeing is they've insulated the cavity and then they close it with the cover. So this is a fantastic way to insulate the guitar. Now, a couple episodes ago, someone asked me what's better, shielding tape or shielding paint. I don't have a preference either way. I just think shielding paint's a lot easier. The only thing you need to know is this. If you use shielding tape, like we seen in a video a couple weeks ago, you have to solder the ground wire from the electronics to the shielding tape, as you see here. If you have shielding paint, like what they're using, you would just screw the ground wire from the electronics into the side of the cavity, and the wire would touch the shielding paint. You don't solder it. This is also a good time to mention they shielded the pickup cavities as well.
As always, if you like this video, maybe subscribe. And if you want other people to see this video, give it a thumbs up. I know you guys like measurements, some of you. So the width of the nut is 1.628 or 41.35 millimeters. Looking at the 12th fret, we're at 51.73 millimeters or 2.036. That tells us the neck is a little narrow, right? Especially on the headstock. Let's look at the thickness. Looking at the 12th fret, we are at 0.848. or 21.54 millimeters. And the thickness on the first fret is 18.43 millimeters or 0.725. Pretty thin, not Ibanez thin, not super shredder neck thin, but very thin. It is definitely a C carve. I'll confirm that real quick. And absolutely, that's what we have. Yep, is a C carve. This is definitely a fast playing, easy play neck. Let's go ahead and see what the radius is. So we have 12-inch radius. Oh, and nope. Cool. What we have is a 12 to 16-inch radius. So this is a compound radius fretboard. So starts out like a Les Paul, so a little flat, but a little bit of curve, and then of course really flat 16, so a little easier to play those.
The fretboard is not heavily rolled like a vintage guitar. It's not sharp either. It's a nice smooth edge that you don't really feel on your hand at all. Now taking a look at the fret size, we have the frets coming in at 0.105, which is 2.67 millimeters, and the fret height is 0.72 millimeters or 0.028. So based on those measurements, this fret is a medium fret. But what's interesting is, what I think happened is these are jumbo frets, and what they do is they just level them to make sure they are perfect, and so therefore they fit in the medium category, even though they have a jumbo width. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking, how am I measuring this? I'm using the Digital caliper, which has a notch at the bottom that lets you measure fret height. I love this caliper. I'll put a link down in the description below. For fun, I thought I'd show you this. This is my original Digital caliper. I want to say it's 10 or 15 years old, could be 20.
If you buy a headless guitar, especially your first one, never, and I mean never, go anywhere like a gig or anywhere without restringing it at least once, knowing what you're doing. They are very problematic. On a difficulty range, compared to Kiesel and Strandberg, I would say this is not as difficult as the Kiesel hip shot bridge, which I think sometimes is a little cumbersome, but not as easy as the Strandberg bridge, in my opinion. So I think it's easier to restring a Strandberg than this. This is definitely like the hip shot system, where you're kind of fishing the ball in through the saddle and then trying to hook it into this larger slot, and then kind of looks like a hanger for a pitcher, you know, kind of like a big hole, and then it thins out and you kind of get the ball in there. Like I said, your first time, you will be frustrated. I would definitely have a second pack of strings as a backup if it's your first time ever using a headless guitar. Now, price comparative wise, this is pretty easy. You have Kiesel guitars that's sitting in around the $1,500 and up price. You have Strandberg guitars now starting at the $1,000 price point, but you have to love the Endura neck on those. Ibanez also has an Indonesian made headless guitar at the $1,000 range. And then you have eArt, which comes in at about $299. It's made in China. This one, I would say, is the best of two worlds. I really like the Strandberg body for comfort, the way it sits a little up in your lap and where it sits. This one has that kind of feature comfort-wise, but then it has a more traditional neck that you're used to. Like, this neck feels very similar to my Kiesel headless Delos neck. I would say this is very comparable in feel and size. Let's go ahead and play it, see how it sounds, and I'll tell you how it plays, and I'll give you some final thoughts. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through a couple things. Obviously, it's not top heavy anyway, and whether on a guitar strap or in your lap, it's very comfortable. You can see it sits higher than you think for a guitar that's so small, like I said, physically size. For the audio samples, I'm going to be using the Engl Steve Morse amp. I do have it running through a 112 Creamback with an SM57 and a room mic, and we'll start with the clean on the neck. I mean, it's got a very clean, modern sound. You're not going to get a lot of vintagey tone, but let's coil split the neck and see what happens. Go to middle position. This should be coil split middle, so 2 single coils. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to overdrive. Neck pickup. I mean, they really come alive with the overdrive. So, some final thoughts on this.
Obviously, my one negative was the pickup routes, and hearing the manufacturer's response that they're not seeing that my issue is as common is really reassuring, but also knowing that they're going to go ahead and loosen the tolerances so we don't see that at all really is a winner for me.
That's all the negatives. Everything after that is positives. First of all, this thing is psychotically light. So 4 pounds is really light. It plays great. It feels great. Overwhelmingly, for $499, this is a very, very good instrument that punches way above its weight. So the negatives are very little. I really love the 2 feet on the bottom of the guitar. The horns are identical, so you just set this down and it just leans against a wall perfectly. It's like got its own built-in guitar stand. As always, I want to thank you so much for your time and hanging out to the end of the video.
Until the next time, know your gear.